Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone is announced to be running the 400 this Saturday, July 12th at the Ed Murphy Classic down in Memphis, Tennessee. And I think this came as a kind of surprise because she just ran a 400 this past weekend at the Prefontaine Classic in Eugene, Oregon. But I do think this specific race is going to be very telling and will lead her to a decision on if she'll run the 400 or the 400 hurdles at USA's and eventually the World Championships. So let's talk about why she's running this specific race and some of the positives and negatives as it relates to choosing the 400 or the 400 hurdles when going towards the World Championships this year. So first off, we know Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone as the GOAT of the 400 meter hurdles, two-time Olympic gold medalist, world champion, and she's broken this world record on 6 different occasions, capping things off with a best of 50.37 seconds from the Paris Olympic Games last year. But in 2025, Sydney has been running very frequently in Grand Slam track, specifically Kingston and Miami. She ran the 400 hurdles and the 400. Then in Philadelphia, she dropped down and ran the 100 and the 100 meter hurdles. At the LA Grand Slam track meet, she was slated to run the 400 and the 200, going up against Marlita Paulino, Saweetie Nasser, and Gabby Thomas. But that meet was canceled, Grand Slam track having some issues, so they had to end their season. But the Prefontaine Classic literally created a 400 meter race for Sydney to run in to make up for that lost competition at Grand Slam track in Los Angeles. And many assumed that this would be her final race before USA's in about 3 weeks' time. But now that she's entered in this 400 down in Tennessee, no one actually expected it, but there are a few reasons as to why she is running this race. First off, Sydney came out and said that the 400 at Prefontaine was a disappointment on her end. She wanted to run much faster, right? She's been signaling that she wants the American record, maybe even faster to some degree. And she also noted that she wanted to really attack the first 200, and it seems like she didn't really hit the mark that she was looking for. Here's the clip.
What was the immediate feeling crossing the finish line, seeing the time?
Disappointment. I just know I'm more fit than that. So I think it's just about executing and putting the race together. And like I said yesterday, the 400 is something I'm working on. So I'm curious when I came through the first 2, and it really was just going out there and kind of feeling that first half of the race. So I'm curious to go back and watch it. I'm sure it probably wasn't exactly what we were looking for.
So you can see that she was disappointed with that time. I mean, 49.49 seconds, that's not a time that's going to really get you competitive with someone like a Marlita Paulino, with a Saweetie Nasser. That's not even faster than what Gabby Thomas or others have run this year. But the clear thing that I think Sydney is attacking is that American record. And she has been very vocal about wanting the American record of 48.70 seconds set by Sonia Richards-Ross all the way back in 2006. Now, she's already run really close to that record. At the 2023 USA Championships, she ran 48.74. Last year at the New York City Grand Prix, she ran 48.75. So we know that Sydney is more than capable of actually getting that record when things are right, but it kind of does speak to how tough that record is. 48.70 seconds, yes, we're used to all these athletes like a Nasser or Paulino with their 48.1s and all these things, but like 48.7 is still a very fast mark, and Sydney knows she needs to be running on all cylinders to finally take it down.
It's a pretty significant American record, and is that something that you want to continue to try to attack?
Absolutely. I think it's possible. It's there. I know I'm capable of it. It's just a matter of putting the race together.
So when looking at the Ed Murphy Classic, can she actually get the American record? Yeah, she can run it here, but will she actually do it? Maybe. That's a whole different question. As I said, that 48.70 is no easy feat and really is a very tough barrier to break. Only a few women in this current generation have been able to actually even surpass that. As I said, Marlita Paulino, Saweetie Nasser, Nikisha Price, right? Those are the 3 women who are currently active. Shout out to Shauna Miller-Weibo, but those are the women who are currently active who have actually surpassed that mark in our current age. Sydney has yet to do it, but I've spoken about how Sydney is a contender along with Paulino and Nasser to maybe get under the 48-second barrier. But we're seeing in recent years that it's a little tougher than Sydney has actually thought about. So as it relates to this upcoming 400, we can see that she's been making steady progress throughout the year. She's run 50 seconds at the Kingston Grand Slam track meet in the 400. She ran 49.69 at the Miami Grand Slam track meet. And then, as I said, she ran 49.43 seconds at the Prefontaine Classic this weekend. Now, for context, the 49.43 and 49.69 are her 4th and 7th fastest times ever. She's also had a 4x4 split of 47.71 seconds, and that's the 3rd fastest split in the history of the 4x4, only behind, some, Eastern Bloc runners from back in the 1980s. But splits, of course, are very misleading, and they're not truly indicative of an individual performance. Case in point, Allyson Felix split 47.72 seconds at the 2015 World Champs in Beijing, but she's only run 49.26 seconds in the Open 4. So 4x4 split, 400 Open, a little bit different, but we know that Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone is extremely talented. The other thing that's important in terms of context here is that the Monaco Diamond League is going down on Friday, so one day before Sydney runs her 400. Marlita Paulino is running the 400 in Monaco. So Paulino might run a really fast time in Monaco, and that might remind Sydney what she's going to be facing if she does choose to go into the 400 at USA's and then eventually the World Championships. So that does lead to a question on what will Sydney run at USA's this year, either the Open 400 or the 400 meter hurdles. So she's already said that she's still undecided, and this race does bring up even more questions as to what choice she's actually going to make. Here's a clip of her.
But does this sway you in any way, 400 hurdles or 400?
Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about it. I think both are very exciting races. Both are ones that we've talked about for sure. And I know I'm capable of doing more in both of them. So we're gonna have to just make some decisions and get ready for USA's.
But let's go through some of the positives and negatives. First off, in the 400 meter hurdles, this is a clearly easier path to the gold medal. Sydney, like I said, is the absolute GOAT of the event. She has the world record, 50.37 seconds. Behind that, she's run 50.65. She's run 50.68. The next closest person to her is Femke Bol, who has run 50.95 seconds in a one-off meet at altitude in Switzerland. Not to take anything away from the performance, but a one-off meet. Femke Bol is more of a 51-second runner, and even last year, Femke got the bronze medal at the Olympic Games. So all this to say that Femke Bol, being her closest competition, is still light years behind where Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone is at in the event. So much easier path to the gold medal for Sydney in the hurdles. But what's interesting is that if she chooses the 400 meter hurdles, is that she can actually target running sub 50 seconds in the event, become the first woman to actually run 49 seconds in the 400 meter hurdles. She's actually been semi-vocal about wanting to run under 50 seconds, that she's been, kind of targeting that. She's in the range. 50.37 is not too far ahead, and we know the progress that Sydney is able to make when she jumps on the track in the 400 meter hurdles. And we also know that the Tokyo track is very fast. We saw what occurred at the Olympic Games in 2021. I would expect to see some very fast times as well. So easier path to gold in the 400 hurdles. And then of course she can target sub 50 seconds if that's what she really does want to go for. But let's talk about the 400. This is where things get interesting. 400 meters is a very big challenge to get the gold medal. Marlita Paulino, Saweetie Nasser clearly ahead of the field and ahead of Sydney based on what we know right now. Saweetie Nasser already has the world lead at 48.67 seconds. She's also run 48.85 and 48.94 seconds, all just in 2025. Marlita Paulino has run 48.81 seconds, and aside from that one race at the Kingston Grand Slam track meet, she has been undefeated in 2025 and seems to just be getting faster and faster. And that's to say nothing of everyone else in the 400, between Nikisha Price, last year, who's run 48.5 seconds, Natalia Bukovetska, who's run 48.9 seconds on 3 different occasions last year as well, and is getting back into form. Anyone else also could really step things up at the World Championships. So it does make the 400 extremely tricky and very challenging for Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone. Like I said, I do think that Sydney is more in the realm of a Paulino and Nasser than anyone else, but the reality of the situation is she is yet to get there. So going for that gold medal is a very tough challenge, especially relative to the 400 meter hurdles. But the positive here is she can go for the American record at USA's or potentially Worlds. Let's say she doesn't get it at the Ed Murphy Classic, then she does have the opportunity to run significantly faster in a championship setting. Like I said, 2023, we saw her actually run the 400 at USA's and she almost broke the American record. She really thrives in championship settings, and this could could be the opportunity for her to do that. But also, Paulino has openly been speaking about running sub 48 seconds in the 400 meters, and I think that Sydney could join along in that realm if, she gets pulled by Nasser, by Paulino, etc., etc. Running those fast times, that's an opportunity if she chooses to run the 400. But the other thing about the 400 is Sydney has unfinished business. Remember, 2023, Sydney actually chose to go the 400 meter route, running it at USA's, qualifying for the World Championships, but she got injured right before the Monaco Diamond League in 2023 and ended up just closing out her season and ending things that year. Of course, 2024 was an Olympic year, so she wanted to go for a gold medal in the 400 meter hurdles, which she did. But I do think she may want to, finish up what she did start in 2023 and go for a gold medal in the 400. So unfinished business, that's one. The last thing that I think would lean in her direction of the 400 is the excitement. Sydney is always looking to push herself. She's always looking to try something new, and she's always looking to break another barrier. The 400 would be a new challenge to truly push herself. As I said, the Grand Slam track meet in Los Angeles was canceled, so she didn't get a chance to race Paulino and Nasser and Gabby Thomas. And 2023, she was injured, so she didn't get a chance to run in that race as well. I think this would be an exciting opportunity for her as an individual to jump into a new frontier, to jump into something different, and really be pushed in a way that she doesn't get when running the 400 meter hurdles. But the other thing is she doesn't like to lose. Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone does not like to lose, and there's a very high likelihood that happens here if she does contest it at the World Championships. But what should she actually run? Let's be real. Fans, they want to see Sydney run the 400. That's what everyone, including myself, wants to see Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone do, right? We want to see the competition. We want to see the head-to-heads. We want to see the quality matchups and the challenge, that we'll get from Sydney, Paulino, and Nasser all lined up on the track together. This is exactly what we want to see as fans. But the 400 meter hurdles is all but a guaranteed win for Sydney, right? And she does not like to lose. She's been very expressive about how she does not like to lose. And, the only thing that can get in her way is the hurdles on the track. Shout out to Femke Bol, Anna Cockrell, Dalilah Muhammad, Rochelle Clayton. Shout out to everyone. But we have to be realistic. The only thing stopping Sydney is those hurdles. Unless some kind of freak situation does happen. But what I do think she'll do is if Sydney runs anything from 48.8 or faster at this Ed Murphy Classic, I think that will lean her in the direction of running the Open 400 at USA's and then eventually the World Championships. The big thing is she probably wants to feel like she can truly compete with Marlene Paulino and Saweetie Nasser before she takes that jump in and, does the 400. If she's still running 49 seconds, or even if she's running 48.9 seconds, I don't know if that will give her the clear sign to say, all right, I am ready to run with Paulino and Nasser. And let's be clear, I've been one who's vocal to say that Sydney is in that realm, but I think she really needs to see it. I think her, Bobby Kersee, they need to see, all right, we are truly ready to win a gold medal. Again, Paulino already run 48.8. Nasser already run 48.6. So it's very tricky to just jump into a race like that if you're not truly ready for a gold medal. There was one thing I've been thinking about where there's been comparisons with Allyson Felix in 2015, where Felix had been consistently running the 200 for years, and then 2015, she switched over to the 400 and eventually got a gold medal at the World Championships that year. There's a few differences though as it relates to what Felix did and what Sydney would be doing in her case. First off, the top 400 meter women at that point in 2015 were all at the end of their careers. Sonia Richards-Ross, Christina Hurugru, Dee Dee Trotter, Sharika Williams. All these women had been winning medals consistently between 2005 to about 2013 or so. But by the time we got to 2015, all of them were either retiring or retired and kind of ending things in their careers. Also, some of the athletes who would become some of the future stars in the 400 were still really young at that point. Shauna Miller-Weibo, Sharika Jackson, even Phyllis Francis, they were all still kind of just starting their careers in the 400, and we saw Allyson Felix actually take over all of them at the 2015 World Champs. The other thing is that there was a lot of banned athletes in the 2015 season. Amato Macho from Botswana was banned in 2014 after having, won a couple medals, including gold in the years prior. You also had the Russian athletes with Krivashapka as well as Kapachinskaya. All of them were also banned and not competing at the 2015 World Champs. So these things kind of opened the door for Allyson Felix to get the gold medal in 2015, running 49.26 seconds. Now, this isn't to diminish Felix's, gold medal in any capacity, because she not only won this gold medal, she also won an Olympic silver medal. She also won won a world championship silver, an Olympic bronze. Like, she is very successful when it comes to the 400, but I think just when talking about parallels between 2015 and 2025 between Allyson Felix and Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone, it's very, very different. Marley DuPaulino, Saweetie Nasser, Nikisha Price, Natalia Bukovetska, all these women are running 48 seconds currently and actively and are in no shape or form slowing down. So it is a bigger challenge in the 400 for Sydney than Allyson Felix had in 2015. So I don't know, we'll see. We only have a couple weeks before USA's, so we'll get a decision in the next couple weeks. Sydney, of course, is going to show up here on Saturday. Paulino is running on Friday at the Monaco Diamond League. That might provide a little split screen and some indication of what Sydney might have to do in terms of her competition, but we'll actually see. Let me know what you think about Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone, and should she run the 400? Should she run the 400 hurdles? What do you want? What do you think she'll actually do? Who knows? And what do you think she'll actually run at this Ed Murphy Classic? Will she get the American record, or will she be just a little bit behind like she's done in the past? Let me know what you think. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. Always truly appreciate y'all. Thanks for watching.